Can you hear my kids yelling at each other? Hold on. They're fighting over the new puppy. Oh my God, I think I might have to go. I'm going to put the phone down for a moment. Hold on.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio.
Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about faith, firearms, and freedom. We talk about guns, hunting, competition, and the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 70, brought to you by Cook's Holsters, American-made custom Kydex holsters with a lifetime warranty and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. CooksHolsters.com. Welcome to the show. Thank you for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your day again this week. It's great to be with you again. Hope you had a great week. Mine was busy as usual, but this week it was a good busy. The last month or so has been crazy at work, but this week things weren't as bad. The projects that had me swamped the last few weeks finally are starting to wind down a bit, and so I managed to have a more productive weekend last weekend and during the week this week as well. As I mentioned in last week's show, I had hoped to put together a play set that was sitting out in my garage in front of my workbench. I got that thing put together with a good bit of sweat and cursing and beer, and now I can get to my workbench again and do some reloading. I actually managed to get out to the range to do some shooting, which was nice. First time in I don't even know how long it's been. And I recorded a range review of the Ruger LCP2 for the Reformation Gun Club. By the way, if you'd like to check that out, gunclub.armedlutheran.us. It's our membership site. Access to lots of really cool members-only content. Some exclusive content went up on the site this month. For $1.50 a month or $15.17 a year, you could be a member and take advantage of all the benefits. gunclub.armedlutheran.us. Check it out. Got to the range, did some practice for the Arkansas State IDPA Championship, which is next weekend in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I need to get a little more time this week as well. Hopefully I can get back out to the range for one more practice session before the match. I actually did a little bit of dry fire, a very little bit, but a little bit, first time in probably 4 weeks. And I managed to get some really cool interviews done this week. Lined up 2 this week, and one of which you're going to hear today, and I think you're going to really enjoy them. I'll tell you about those in just a minute. Speaking of this weekend, Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We've got a special show for you today, something a little bit different for you. Today, we're dedicating the show to moms, our mothers, our wives, all the mothers who might be listening. We want you to know just how much you mean to us and how much we appreciate everything that you do for us and have done for us. Many Americans have got really fond memories of learning to shoot with their dads, but often we forget that there are a lot of Americans who learned to hunt or to shoot from mom. Our wives, our mothers, the mothers of our children, they're the reasons, in many cases, that we own guns for self-defense. They're the reasons that we carry. We own guns to protect those we love. Today, we're celebrating our moms. We've got a special Mother's Day tribute in store for you from our contributors, Aaron Israel, Mia Anstine, and Pastor Bennett. We've also got some special guests as well. And our special interview, one of those interviews I mentioned, you'll be hearing today. Rhonda Ezell grew up on the south side of Chicago, and as a young mother, she bought a gun and defied Chicago's ban on guns in the home in order to keep her family safe. She's the lead plaintiff in 2 successful lawsuits against the city's gun control ordinances, and she'll join us a little bit later on the show to talk about that and her new project, Chicago Guns Matter. So stick around. All that gets started next, right here on Armed Lutheran Radio.
Well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
With those words, our founding fathers changed the world. They launched an experiment in freedom, where common lawful citizens are free to speak and gather and worship as they choose. But first among those freedoms is the one freedom that makes the rest possible. For 130 years, we've worked to preserve freedom first. I'm Wayne LaPierre of the National Rifle Association.
Hello, this is Pastor Brian Wolfmueller of Table Talk Radio. Hey, pay attention, because you're listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.
Welcome back to Armed Lutheran Radio. As I said in the intro, many Americans have fond memories of learning how to shoot with their dad. But often overlooked are those of us who owe our love of guns or hunting to our moms. That's how it was for me. My parents, they split up when I was in the 4th grade. And my brother and I moved to a tiny western North Carolina town with my mom to my grandmother's farm. We had 40 some odd acres. There was plenty of room to be outside and to play and to shoot guns. My late uncle taught me about guns and gun safety. He was the one who taught me the 4 rules. And I remember to this day, the one that sticks in my mind I never will forget is his emphasis on rule number 1. Never point a gun at anything that you're not prepared to kill or destroy. And that really stuck with me. It impressed on me the power of this thing that I had in my hands. It was a Christmas present. The gun that he taught me with came from my mom. I was 12, and I got a Marlin 60 .22 rifle. I still have it to this day. It's sitting in my safe. And for both of my children, it was the very first gun they ever shot. So the memories that I've made with my kids, my son 7 years ago when he was 9, and my daughter this year when she was 6, those memories are tied inexorably to my mom and to the gun that she bought me when I was a kid. For that, and for so much more, I'm forever grateful. My mom worked 2 and sometimes 3 jobs to raise me and my brother on her own. She didn't even date again until I was a senior in high school. She put her life on hold to raise the 2 of us, to make sure we're fed and clothed and loved. She taught us to cook and clean and to wash our own clothes, to balance a checkbook. She prepared us for the real world, for life on our own. My mom taught us about Jesus. She took us to church. She taught me to focus on what we could control in life and to trust the Lord for the rest. And when I strayed from the faith, her prayers never ceased. Her prayers and the work of the Holy Spirit on my heart brought me back. She's the reason I am who I am today, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you. We'll be back with more right after this, right here on Armed Lutheran Radio.
This is Kevin Wright from Fairfax, Missouri. I'd like to wish my mom, Kara Browning, and my wife, Laura, a happy Mother's Day.
As many of you know, Sergeant Bill and I are competitive shooters. We're also reloaders. Bill helped me to get started last year, but I've still got a lot to learn. One thing I do know, though, you need a good source for supplies and components. So let me tell you about U.S. Reloading Supply. Yeah, there are bigger suppliers out there, but what sets U.S. Reloading Supply apart from the rest is their dedication to customer satisfaction. Check them out at usreloadingsupply.com. They carry the top name brands like Starline, Rainier, Barry's, Remington, Spear, and Hornady. If you've got a special order like primers and powder that you don't see on their website, give them a call for a quote. I did and got a great price. Excellent customer service, fast delivery, prices that include shipping, and a promise to match or beat any retailer's price, including shipping. Call them today, 941-451-7357, or visit them today at usreloadingsupply.com and use the promo code Lutheran2017 to save 10% off your order. usreloadingsupply.com.
It's time for this week's self-defense tip from Aaron Israel of Fundamental Defense.
Hey folks, this is Aaron Israel of Fundamental Defense, and I'm going to forego your personal defense tip this week to give a shout out to my mom for Mother's Day. One of the things I remember most fondly about growing up with my mom is the way that she always instilled in us a passion for American history and our American heritage and understanding what it means to serve your country. There's a lot of moms who's, when they have sons who want to go into the military, are apprehensive about it and maybe even discourage it, and I can tell you my mom was absolutely the opposite. I can remember back on 9/11/2001, after watching the planes hit the Twin Towers, I can remember my mom telling me that she knew that me and my brothers would fight in this war and that she was okay with that. And so she encouraged us to do that if that was what we felt we were called to do. And when we took our oath of office and did our duty, she was supportive along the whole way. I went into the Army in 2003 and ended up going to Iraq in 2008 after commissioning as a field artillery officer. And my brothers, Ethan and Micah, both went to Afghanistan. Now, they were both just in junior high when 9/11 happened, but they ended up serving in that same theater. So that tells you something about what my mom's been through. She's sent 3 kids off to combat deployments and has kept her sanity. And thankfully, praise be to God that we all came back with all of our limbs and fully intact, and we're able to, reminisce about those things now. And in that note, I want to give a special thanks to all those moms out there whose sons and daughters made the ultimate sacrifice, who never got to see them come home except in that flag-draped coffin, who got that knock at the door, that call that every parent dreads when they've got a soldier deployed overseas. So if you know anybody who is a Gold Star mom, reach out to them this weekend and tell them thank you for your service. You may not realize how much your words mean when you thank them for the sacrifice that they made by giving up their son or their daughter in defense of this nation. So think about them on this day. And so I just want to say thanks to my mom for raising me as somebody who loves this country and was willing to sacrifice for it. And it's like President Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It's not passed on in the bloodstream. It has to be fought for and defended by each successive generation. And if we as parents don't pass on that love of country, then we as a people will go extinct. So I want to thank my mom for doing her part to pass the torch and to make sure that I understood my duty as an American. And I hope that all of you moms out there who are listening to this will do the same, and that we'll be able to continue on as the greatest country on earth because of the types of sacrifices that moms like mine made throughout the year. So happy Mother's Day, and thanks for tuning in.
Aaron Israel is a Personal Defense Network contributor and owner of Fundamental Defense. You can find out more and sign up for any of Aaron's classes at fundamentaldefense.com.
The percentage of women who own guns is growing. American women are more knowledgeable and better equipped to defend themselves than ever before. So, why is it that every time I go to a gun shop, I feel like they're talking down to me? Like, hey little lady, let me show you what you need. It's like all they want to do is sell me a pink gun. If you're tired of feeling that too, visit Guns for Gals, a specialty firearms boutique designed to empower women with information about firearm safety and to equip them with the means to protect themselves. The owners go out of their way to find products specifically for women, and they actually listen and ask questions to help you find the right products to meet your needs. If they wouldn't own it themselves, they won't sell it. Guns for Gals is located at 2035 Central Circle, Suite 108 in McKinney, Texas. Open Monday 1 to 6 and Tuesday through Thursday 11 to 7. And on weekends, you can find them at a gun show near you. Or shop online at www.gunsforgals.com. Guns for Gals, more than just a gun shop. It's how gun shopping should be.
Up next, it's Mia's Motivations with Mia Anstine.
Hey everybody, happy Mother's Day weekend from the only mom on Armed Lutheran Radio. It's Mia, and you may not recognize me because my voice is a little scratchy because I've been hollering at all the kids. No, I'm kidding. I only have one daughter, but I've actually been in Los Angeles, and I think I'm allergic to smog, and I just needed to be back in the clean mountain air of Colorado. But I wanted to encourage you all this Mother's Day weekend to head out to the range or get outdoors, go do something fun. And if your child is too young to head to the range, maybe you can get an Eddie Eagle book or something like that and teach them a little bit about guns and what to do if they see them. And I won't take up too much of your time because honestly my voice is really rough right now. But hopefully I'll sound better next week. Have a great weekend, guys. Happy Mother's Day.
You can read more from Mia and watch her YouTube videos at miaanstine.com.
It's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. I'm Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation. When someone says we don't need that kind of gun, remind them the Founding Fathers determined what rights our Constitution should protect. There's a world of difference between rights and needs. It is not the function of government to tell us what we need or what we don't. Certainly no one needs an assault rifle or a Saturday night special, or for that matter, no one needs a Corvette with a high-capacity horsepower engine capable of speeds to 150 miles per hour. But in the hands of honest, responsible individuals, we have the right of choice. We have the right to read books others don't like. We have the right to listen to any radio program we choose. We have the right to dress the way we want to. We also have the right to own firearms of our choice. So the next time someone tells you, you don't need something, tell them it's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. Join the Second Amendment Foundation today so that this message and our Bill of Rights might live. Call 425-454-7012. That's 425-454-7012.
Up next, we're Clinging to God and Guns with Pastor John Bennett.
When it comes to mothers, well, I'll be honest, for myself, it's a bit of a struggle to talk about it because I came from an abusive home and don't have a very good relationship with my parents because of it. But on the upside of it, I have a wonderful relationship with my mother-in-law. She is mom to me. And, of course, the most important mother in my life is my wife, the mother of my 3 beautiful children. Now, how does that intersect with my love of firearms? Well, I first got interested in firearms when I was in seminary, thanks to 2 very good friends of mine, Stuart and Eric. And it was in seminary that I bought my first firearm. Now, when I first met my wife, I didn't know that, in many ways, she was anti-gun. And of course, I didn't realize this because when we first met and were engaged, guns weren't a really big interest of mine. But when I had told her that I was going to buy my first firearm, she was a bit apprehensive about that. She didn't like the idea of it. And the reason being is that from her own childhood, she grew up in a single-parent family. Guns weren't ever really in the house. They weren't part of her context of growing up. And the one example that she had of firearms was a very negative example. One of the kids from her youth group at a party had found his father's loaded pistol and was playing with it and accidentally shot and killed himself while he was at this party. So with that frame of reference, my wife and her family were very much anti-gun. Well, that all changed. Of course, my wife still isn't very fond of the idea of me buying more guns. It's one of those things of how many more guns do you need? And of course, my answer is always just one more. But while I was on vicarage with my wife, we got married right before vicarage. And for my birthday, and that would be in 2004, she asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, let me take you shooting, which I did. At that time, we were living in the People's Republic of Illinois. So I actually had to drive to Iowa to buy ammunition because in Illinois, you can't buy ammunition unless you're a registered firearm owner in the state. So anyway, I went and bought some ammunition, took her to the range, had a little .22 pistol, and she really enjoyed shooting that. And then I talked her into shooting my 1911 at the time, and one pull of the trigger was enough for her. She wanted to go back to shooting that .22. But she learned from that firearms aren't dangerous unless they're in the hands of someone who is irresponsible. And since then, her perspective has really grown quite a bit. We live out in the country. She has no qualms about me going out in the back and shooting. And to this day, when we go places, when we go into the big cities, mainly the Twin Cities area, she asks me, "Are you carrying your pistol right now?" Because there's been times, one time in particular, where she was up in the cities and she was with a friend, and somebody cut her off and jumped out of the car and started shouting obscenities at her, and she was very frightened. And now she does not want to go to the cities whatsoever unless I'm along with her and I'm carrying. She has really come to understand the importance of being prepared for the worst case scenario. And for that, it's really just been amazing to see how her perspective has changed, and also how my perspective has changed as a husband and a father. I no longer see firearms as just a fun hobby. I see it as a way of life, always being prepared to protect my wife, protect my children, because next to my faith, they are the most precious thing to me in the world. I would gladly lay down my life for them. So this Mother's Day, I'm thinking about you, honey, even though you probably don't listen to the show. Well, I know you don't listen to the show. That's all right. But thank God for my wife, the mother of my children, and the wonderful life that we have together. Love you, honey. And happy Mother's Day.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org.
Hi, my name is Leah, and I just wanted to wish my mom, Mia, a very happy Mother's Day. She has been an amazing inspiration to me all through my life and has really pushed me to be the best person I can be. I'm so thankful to be her daughter, and I can't wait for more awesome adventures with her. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you.
The Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast is for people who are thinking of getting a gun, and for those who already own one. Each week we invite a firearms instructor to discuss the news. At Self-Defense Gun Stories, we study responsible gun owners who protected themselves and the people they love. Were these gun owners lucky, or were they properly trained and prepared? What would you do if you were in their shoes? What should you do? Come listen at selfdefensegunstories.com.
Welcome back to this Mother's Day edition of Armed Lutheran Radio. From Proverbs chapter 31, there's probably the best passages from the Bible about mothers. An excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Back in 1993, I married my junior high sweetheart. I am definitely a lucky man. I married up. When you marry, the Bible says that husband and wife become one flesh. And that union sort of reorients your whole outlook on life, or at least it should. In 2000, my wife gave me the greatest gift the gift of fatherhood, the gift of our own little nuclear family. That gift is precious, and you'll do anything to protect it. You'll sacrifice anything to keep it safe, even your own life. So concerns for the safety of my growing family back in 2000 led me to buy my first defensive firearm. And it could be said, as a result, that I owe my life as a gun guy and my exposure to gun culture, everything that I'm doing here, the podcast, the blog, my involvement with gun rights, all of that is a result of my wife. And today I'm able to share my passion for guns and shooting with my own kids, my two greatest gifts, my son and my daughter. Every day my wife gets up, she makes sure everybody's prepared and that they're on time. She cleans, she makes sure the kids have enough food to eat even though she hates to cook, makes sure they all have clean clothes. She makes sure homework gets done and lunches are packed. She's always ready with a hug and a kiss, an ear to listen, words of encouragement, a gentle hand to wipe away tears and to mend skinned knees and boo-boos. And when danger knocked on our door back in North Carolina when I was 1,000 miles away, she was the mama bear, gun in hand, protecting our cubs. My wife makes our house a home and fills it with love and joy that I don't deserve. So, to the love of my life, the girl of my dreams, my best friend, my partner in this crazy thing called parenting, I love you. Happy Mother's Day. We'll be back with more right after this, right here on Armed Lutheran Radio.
So you have your concealed carry permit or license to carry. Now what? Now you need a good holster. Not one of those cheap neoprene prophylactic holsters you can buy in the big box stores. You need a holster custom built for the firearm you intend to carry every day. Check out cooksholsters.com. Made in the USA, Cooks Holsters are available in a wide range of colors and designs for inside the waistband or outside waistband carry. They carry a lifetime warranty against defects and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Visit www.cooksholsters.com and use the promo code ARMEDPODCAST and take 15% off everything in the store. You put in the time and effort to legally carry a firearm for personal protection. Protect your firearm with a custom holster from cooksholsters.com.
Welcome back to Armed Lutheran Radio. Today we've got a very special guest joining us by phone. Rhonda Ezell is a resident of Chicago, a lifelong resident of Chicago, and the lead plaintiff in Ezell versus Chicago in 2011, which overturned the city's ban on shooting ranges, and then again in what is known as Ezell 2, which struck down the city's zoning restrictions on shooting ranges. She won the Second Amendment Foundation's Defender of Freedom Award in 2011, and she's the founder of Chicago Guns Matter. Rhonda, welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Lloyd.
It is great to have you here. Before we get into the lawsuits and how those things are going, you grew up in Chicago. You spent your whole life in Chicago. I read you got an Illinois firearms owner ID card at age 18. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to say 18, or if not 18, definitely 21. So I had one very early on.
What struck me about that was more and more women are getting into guns, and that's a fantastic thing. But 30 years ago, you weren't the typical demographic for gun ownership. What got you interested in guns?
Well, 30 years ago, I used to live in a rough neighborhood in the city of Chicago. And I'd come home from work at one point, and I realized that I found myself in a position where I may have to protect me and my family.
Right.
So at that point, I decided I had a FOID card, and of course it was illegal to have a gun in your home, but it was a catch-22 because you could still get a FOID card as well. So I decided to purchase my first firearm at that time in order to protect my family. So that's how I got started with firearms.
The idea of an FOID card is so foreign to a lot of people in America. And those, we all know, we talk about how Chicago's got these awful restrictive gun control laws, right? Can you give us a little, and I want to credit you, that your website is fantastic, by the way,
Thank you.
Because I learned a lot just reading through the history of Chicago gun law on your website. Give us a quick history of gun control in Chicago. It started in 1968, didn't it?
It started right after I was born, probably. And the history is Chicago has had the most restrictive gun laws in the nation for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. But yet they've always had one of the highest crime rates at the same time. So now, if you go back to the 1920s of the days of Al Capone, the city of Chicago has always been ridden with violence. So as I grew up and I got old enough and I decided, hey, I want to get a FOID card, I found myself in a position where I said, well, hey, if you're lawful and you can get this thing, get it. But I know a lot of states, they have constitutional carry or, they don't have to have a FOID card to exercise their fundamental constitutional rights. But the city of Chicago placed a lot of restrictions on the law-abiding citizens here, but yet we still are plagued with a lot of violence. They're not for the lawful individuals to carry, the lawful people to actually exercise their fundamental rights. They really don't want that. So when we vote them in and they go down in Springfield and these bills that are being put forth are written, they're not to help the law-abiding in any way. That's why we have so much litigation. Mm-hmm. We have sued to get every right that we have, and that's insane.
Not living in Chicago or even in Illinois, and we see just every weekend there's news stories about how many people are shot and how many are killed, and the last few years have been particularly bad. I saw an interview on CNN, a guy from CNN who was interviewing gang members in Chicago, and they were saying it's worse than you think it is. What is it like growing up in Chicago? Does the media do it justice to is it really as bad as they make it sound, or is it overhyped?
Oh, it's definitely what it is. It's definitely what you see on TV. Chicago is a very tough place to live. It's rough. They can't stop it. The violence has escalated the last 3-4 years in a row. And yes, it's real. And it is dangerous. And this is what's happening on a daily basis. And it's unfortunate for the law-abiding because the politicians here, they want to paint the picture that there's too many guns on the street and put more gun control in place to only restrict our rights as lawful gun owners because they can't do anything about the violence. It's crazy.
Why do you think it's getting worse?
Well, my take on it is the judicial system. Everybody has to do their part. I know at the end of the day, if I commit a crime, then I should be prosecuted. Because when you see how the politicians continue to want to put something on the books, and then it's impossible that you're not applying those laws as needed.
And you know good and well that, as I suspect, and you probably do too, that if you had been caught in violating the city's gun ban, you would have been prosecuted in a way that the typical criminals don't.
Oh, they definitely would have prosecuted me if I had done something. That was a no-brainer, So I take my energy and my passion, and I try to put it forth in educating the people about their rights. I leave that other madness to the people that get paid to do that. That's their job.
So in 2010, McDonald versus Chicago blows the ban out of the water, and now you're able to legally possess a firearm. But the city responded with a bunch of ordinances that put a bunch of hoops in made you jump through all kinds of hoops.
The city of Chicago came up with a whole host of things that didn't make sense. Otis McDonald sued the city of Chicago for the right to have a firearm in the home in 2010. Mm-hmm. And as I was complying with that ordinance, I went to my organization that I had been a lifetime member of, and I said, hey, what's going on here? So we sat down and we decided and figured out that my rights had been violated as I tried to comply with this new ordinance to have a gun in the home. Mm-hmm. Because I actually found myself traveling outside of city limits to comply with a city ordinance. So you can't mandate something and prohibit it at the same time, which is what the city of Chicago had actually done. And that's how Ezell versus Chicago was born.
Right, because one of the responses to McDonald was the city banned shooting ranges. Is that correct?
No, they didn't ban shooting ranges. At the time, there wasn't any available for the law-abiding citizens.
Gotcha.
Now, they have some that the police use, and they have some in federal buildings, and some even in some schools, ROTC, and things like that. But they weren't open to the public. During the McDonald case, as he fought to bring the firearms into the home, and I wanted to comply with that, and I found myself not having a gun range to go to do so. That was another little iffy situation. We know the law exists now. Yes, you can have a gun in your home, but guess what? Now you need training. Now, where would these people go to get training if they're unaware of anything outside of the city of Chicago? So there wasn't even a gun range available.
So part of the ordinance that was passed was, yes, you can have a gun, but you got to have training in order to own one.
Exactly. And that's where the people got stuck in, because there wasn't a range available in city limits. It still isn't one here yet. And
until Moore versus Madigan, you couldn't even take the gun outside your home, right?
Exactly. You couldn't even step out on the porch, not out the front door, anything of that nature, inside the home. And it doesn't make sense, because even if a person had qualified, took the class, took the course, paid for their fees, got their background checked, got their fingerprints done by the FBI, they still didn't have anywhere to go after that to stay efficient in the use of that firearm.
So I read you were driving like 50 miles to go practice. Where were you?
I did.
Where did you have to go?
I ended up going to Dundee, Illinois, to a gun range in Dundee, Illinois, which was part of the class or the course that I had taken. That was the range that they had selected as part of their program, because everyone knew there wasn't a gun range in Chicago. So I wasn't aware that that's where I was going to have to go, because when I signed up for the class, I just signed up for the class just like I knew the law had passed. I wanted to be one of the first to do it. And then the surprise came, and yes, we're going to go here. And they gave us a map, and that these are the instructions. This is where we're going to be. And I was sitting there looking like, whoa, where is this?
And where is that related to where you live?
Oh, my God. That place was at least 50 miles north. Dundee, the only thing I heard about Dundee, Illinois as a child was Santa's Village. It was just a little type of the roller coaster ride thing out there or something to that effect. But that's where that place was. And that was quite a way for me, because I actually had been dealing with some health issues, and I wasn't able to really, get there. It was rough for me to get there.
Right.
So it made it a big inconvenience to me health-wise.
Did you have your own vehicle? Were you able to drive yourself, or did you have to take public?
I did. I got lost a couple of times as well. So that's what really made it worse. So, it was like, oh, my God, I can't believe I got to go this far. This is ridiculous. So when I finished, I came back to my organization like, look, this was crazy. I had to go through this. I had to do this. And this is where I ended up. And then we took a look into that, because we felt that just didn't have to happen. That's nonsense. How many more Chicago residents would end up in that position?
Right. And how many didn't have their own transportation and rely every day on public transportation and couldn't get there?
And this is the thing. Public transportation, you can't carry on public transportation.
Right.
So still, that's another way to eliminate the people in the process of getting this license. So there was a lot of red tape that people had to conquer just in order to even get this certificate to have this gun in your home. So
now that you keep talking, you mentioned the organization that you're a member of. We need to give them some props. I think I assume you're talking about Illinois State Rifle Association.
Yes, the Illinois State Rifle Association, which I am a lifetime member of. I went to my people and I said, hey guys, this is what's going on. This is what I had to do, and we came to that conclusion like that is not right. We need to do something about that.
So how did the lawsuit get started?
Oh, that was easy. We knew that it was illegal for what the city of Chicago was doing. So
did ISRA did they file the lawsuit?
Well, I had co-plaintiffs. It was myself,
mm-hmm.
Mr. Joseph Brown, William Heston, the Second Amendment Foundation, Illinois State Rifle Association, and Action Target. We all were together on this lawsuit. I was just the lead plaintiff.
Right.
And we fought this battle for 7 years, 7 long, hard years. and we flying the W right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because City of Chicago has taken several losses, and we're sticking it to them. The more that they push us, the harder we fight.
So the Seventh Circuit agreed with you in 2011 that the ban on public shooting ranges was an infringement. Then the City of Chicago, they did their typical thing, said, okay, you can have ranges, but we're going to make it really difficult to actually put a range in the city. Zoning restrictions, like what? You couldn't put one near a school. You couldn't have one.
You couldn't put one near a school, a liquor store, a church, whatever little entity that you could think of, which we have 1 million on each corner.
Mm-hmm.
It was geographically designed that way, so there wasn't even a pinpoint of a place less than 1 percentile in the City of Chicago where a gun range could actually exist. So they did that once again just to send it back to court and do it all over again.
So again, here's your rights, but we're going to make it difficult on you. And so you had to go to court again.
And we had Ezell 2. You know, in Ezell 1, we struck down a lot of things. You know, it was just a lot of pettiness on their behalf. You know, hours of operation, firearm rentals at a range, ammo sale, gun sales at a range, the requirement of a FOIA card for the owner, you know, things of that nature that really didn't make, you know, that's Chicago. You know, just to to let you know how they want to continue a fight that they know they're losing. You know, so we came to Ezell 2.
And that just finished up this year, right?
We just finished up this year with Ezell 2. We actually got a final judgment in January. And then, of course, there was our judgment, like I'm going to say March the 15th, and everything is over with. But, you know, in Ezell 2, there was some importancy there. You know, we knocked down that manufacturing zoning, you know, so they can't just say you can only have a gun range in a manufacturing district. You know, it was found unconstitutional, as well as knocking down the age of a minor. This opens up a lot of space and opportunity, you know, to actually have a range built here in the City of Chicago without a lot of limitations.
So what's the current outlook for the building of a range at this point?
We're waiting on the individual, whoever decides to step up and say, hey, I want to build this range. You know, so someone, if you're out there, you want to build this range in the City of Chicago, we're waiting on you. That's the next step, because the case is won. It's been found unconstitutional. And not only that, several other villages here in Illinois have changed their law. You know, I've been going to these town halls and speaking on the behalf of people that want to build gun ranges in their neighborhood, and it's working. You know, they understand the law. Ezell for Chicago is law of the land, and they have to abide by the Seventh Circuit Court's ruling. And so people don't want to find themselves having their taxpayers to pay millions of dollars fighting a case that's already been won. So they would be smart, you know, to do this, because if not, they'll find themselves in court fighting a losing battle, and their taxpayers will be paying for someone else to build a range, pretty much.
Right.
You know, it's unfortunate that these, like people like the City of Chicago, continue to want to trample over our constitutional rights just to have the taxpayers pay in the end.
So at what point did you found Chicago Guns Matter?
Well, we just came out with it, but we've been working on something similar to this for a couple of years now.
Okay.
We've always been active. This is nothing new. We just hadn't put anything out. So Chicago Guns Matter came out, I want to say a few months ago.
Okay.
But we've definitely been working on this thing for years now. But it's about getting the right content, information, the right feel, the right message.
So the idea behind Chicago Guns Matter is to, as I understand it, is to help the inner city community understand that the Second Amendment is for everybody, and they have a right that they have not heretofore been able to exercise.
Right. You know, Chicago Guns Matter, you know, it's made up of pro-guns advocates in and around the city of Chicago. You know, we want to share with the urban community how to exercise their fundamental constitutional right to keep and bear arms. And our goal is for the law-abiding citizens in the city of Chicago to learn how to legally possess firearms. as well as the steps that they need to know to obtain the Illinois concealed carry license. And here at Chicago Guns Matter, we're putting faces to the cases. And what that is letting them know who is actually fighting for their rights. They may not know the case names because they may not be in the firearm industry. Mm-hmm. But say, for instance, the Ezell versus Chicago case or the McDonald case, they may not know what we look like in person because people tend to associate the gun industry with the NRA and say that this is not for black people.
Right.
And it is. And we want to let them know that it is for them. So when we put faces to the cases, what we're doing is telling them about every case that has been fought in the state of Illinois or within the city of Chicago, who fought for their rights, who those people are. Let them know it's people just like them, a regular, everyday, ordinary individual. And they can get the feel for this. Because if they don't know, it's people like us, black people, fighting for your own rights. You have to get involved. We can't point the finger and say, they, and this is for them, this is not for us. These laws exist for everyone.
Amen.
It is for you to get off your butt, get involved, be a part of your own surroundings, educate yourself, be responsible, go and sign up to get a FOIA card. If they don't know how to do that, they can come to our website. We have an abundance of information there that is going to inform them on how to get a FOIA card or how to find a trainer to get a concealed carry license and anything in between. So it's very important that they know that Chicago Guns Matter has been designed for them because they don't believe that it exists, and some people are still not aware that concealed carry is legal here in the city of Chicago.
Right.
Because they've been fighting for so many years of how corrupt Chicago is and how the political party do their thing in the city of Chicago. It's very confusing because they're only hearing it from one side. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to wake them up and tell them, hey, this is for you. If you want to do this, we can help you. We can educate you. We want to put you in the right position to be able to say, hey, this is for me, and get them started.
So what do your friends and your family think? How have you been received? And when you go to these events or when you go out and speak, how are you received in the community? Do they still see guns as sort of evil? Are they rejecting the message, or are they becoming more open to what you're saying?
Well, my family supports me 100%. My biggest supporter is my granddaughter. And she's 6 years old. And we shoot together. We train together. But my family supports me 100%. The people in my neighborhood, they don't know about what I do. I kind of say to myself, this is Chicago, remember? Because you think about it. You don't really want to tell your neighbors exactly what you're doing because you may find yourself dealing with a break-in or something. Think about that for a moment.
Right.
I did a piece on this on our website with situational awareness. So I don't let too many people know who I am and what I stand for if they figure it out that time. But, it's rough in the city of Chicago. So I'm kind of aware of what I do. So I limit that. But, my neighbors don't know about that. They don't care.
Right.
That's not their interest. They're not interested in firearms and guns. My family support it, but, hey, all I can do is educate them to wake them up and tell them to get involved if they're right, if they want to do something. But the average person don't get involved until something happens. And then 9 times out of 10, it's probably a little bit too late. But it's never too late to get a concealed carry license or get trained or get educated on your rights.
So I interviewed Ken Blanchard, the Black Man with a Gun podcast, about a year ago, and he talked about how his support for gun rights was not always welcome in his community. It cost him friends, it cost him jobs, and it damaged relations with family members. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights, of course, is, like you said, is for everybody. Why do you think the idea of gun rights isn't always welcome in the minority community? Is there
One is they've been misled. One, they've been fed a bunch of negativity. Mm-hmm. Because every time you mention a gun or firearms with a black person, it's always negative. And people have took heed to that. They believe that. But here's one thing about the city of Chicago. I can almost guarantee you that in 90% of the households, there's a firearm in those homes, whether they have a FOIA card or not. I'm just guessing because I grew up in the city of Chicago. I don't know for sure. I have no real statistics on this. This is just me saying this as a person who grew up on the south side of Chicago and lived here all my life. But I'm trying to educate them to get involved and do it legally and lawfully so that they don't have fear, so that they can eliminate that fear by knowing the law, knowing what's right and what they are able to do and what their rights are. A lot of people aren't aware of that because they're so used to the political machine that they've stopped listening or even thinking for themselves. They've been fed so much by our politicians that there's too many guns on the street. We have too many shooters. We have too many killers. That may be true, but it's in the hands of the wrong individual.
Right.
So then they want to try to pacify them with this little 4x7 piece of plastic paper that they stick in the window and say, this is a gun-free zone. You can't come in here if you have a gun. Now, that's not going to stop a criminal from committing a crime.
No.
And people tend to seem to believe that they're safe when they see those little signs. But I have something to share with them. And I would like for them to know this. I've never known for a little piece of plastic, 4x7, save anyone's life, posted and adheres to a door front. Because what it does is it tells the criminal that no one in this place can stop me because I'm the only one with a gun. And he's going to go in there and he's going to rob the place, possibly take lives. And you know, that's just something for the everyday, ordinary person to take that information and process it through their brain for that moment and decide for themselves instead of just watching the news, listening and saying, yes, 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 you know, and they're part of that, believing what they're being told about their rights. Instead of them taking the information and checking it out for themselves or going to a site like Chicago Guns Matter to read up on what's really available and what's out here and what the laws are and what they consist of. You know, people don't take that time anymore to do their own homework. You know, so they listen to what society tells them and they believe it all without even going to check on it to see if it's even, you know, true.
So now you're teaching the next generation. You're teaching a new generation of shooters. You talked about your granddaughter. She's 6. What's she been like? What's that been like taking her to the range?
Oh, man, it's been beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. My granddaughter, Marley, she's 6 years old. She's an A honor roll student, and that's how she ends up on the range. She's an A honor roll student. You have to have good grades to do something extra outside of your everyday life. She earns that. She earned that. But it's a blessing, you know, to go from potty training to training her how to cook, read, write, things of that nature. When you see from the infancy stage to 2-3 years old, and now she's 6 and she's interested, and you get to say, hey, I can educate her on the safety use of firearms, and she gets it. She loves to go to the range. She loves being outdoors. She loves to shoot. She's learned those rules of the range, and I instill that in her because when she gets older, I don't want her to have to fight these same battles. It doesn't make sense. You know,
and it doesn't make sense to me we see all these examples every day, seems like, where parents and schools are trying to keep kids away from guns completely. And to me, it seems like the more you create this sort of curiosity about guns, oh, that's not something good, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to look at it. Kids are naturally curious, you end up with problems. And that's how we end up with so many accidental shootings.
Exactly. Once you start putting in a child's mind that the idea of a firearm is a bad thing, the curiosity is there. Now they're going to start trying to figure out, well, what is this and what is that? They're going to go looking. Mm-hmm. And that's where you have the problems that starts to exist with the curiosity of a child. Instead of educating them and letting them know that this is not a bad tool. This is a tool that could possibly save your life, mom and dad's life, or whomever's life. It is not a toy, and once you train them and educate them, just like they get good grades in school, they should be able to conquer the fact that a firearm is a good tool. Mm-hmm. If you use it properly and you pay attention to everything that you're being taught, you learn these things, it's not a toy, then everything will be fine. But if you want to hide these things, you want to tell them that it's not good for them, that's when the mind of a child starts to wander.
Yep.
It's best that you educate them and keep them safe versus leaving it that unanswered question to, well, what's to this? What is this gun about?
Get them started early and you don't have those problems later.
I agree. It's always a great experience when you educate children on something, because that they understand and it sinks in and the learning process, because see, they're still learning in school, so they soak in information way much more than an adult does. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it was a pleasure, just shooting with my granddaughter and seeing the smile on her face and hearing her say, "I can't wait to go to the range, Grandma." When we going to the range, Grandma, as soon as the weather get better, we're out there.
So what's next for Rhonda Ezell and Chicago Guns Matter? I've seen, what do you have any events coming up? Well,
right now we're putting things together, as we go along.
You just had you were just at a women's expo, I believe. Is that correct?
We did IGO. We went down. We did Illinois Gun Owners Lobby Day at Springfield. We lobbied our state representatives, and a couple of days later, we did the Black Woman Expo. And we should have some outings coming up where we're going to try to go around to a couple of churches and see if we can talk to the congregation and educate them. We have some outings that we have with other organizations that are coming up that we'll probably be a part of. And as we go along and we get this thing rolling, we hopefully can bring the city out and make sure we can get these people educated and get them involved as well. So we'll be looking forward to a lot of things as we go along because, like I said, we're just starting now, but, it's not new.
Right.
The information is not new because the cases have been fought, the cases have been won. We just have to put it together in the format that when we address the people, they come out and receive it. Because, it's tough being a gun organization and being involved in some of these things because they're going to be like, no, we don't want gun people here.
Right.
So whatever we can get our hands on and reach the people, that's what we will be doing next. We're not turning down anything. We want to be a part of everything that we possibly can, go around to these neighborhoods and, invite these people out. And if people want to go to our website, they can go to chicagogunsmatter.org. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/Chicago Guns Matter. Or you can contact us at contact@chicagogunsmatter.org.
Rhonda Ezell is the lead plaintiff in 2 successful lawsuits against the city of Chicago. She's the founder of Chicago Guns Matter. You can find out more at chicagogunsmatter.org. Rhonda, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and Christ's blessings to you, and thank you for everything that you're doing in Chicago, and thank you for coming on the show.
Blessings to you as well, Lloyd, and thank you guys for having me.
And that's going to wrap up another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio. Thank you all for listening, downloading, and subscribing. Happy Mother's Day to Kat, Silvia, better known as Sergeant Mrs. Sergeant Bill, to Carrie Bennett, to Stacy Israel, to my wonderful wife Tammy, to Mia Anstine, and to all the moms listening today. From all of us here at Armed Lutheran Radio, happy Mother's Day. And a special thank you goes out to Rhonda Ezell, our special guest today. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. I hope you'll join us again next week for episode 71 when we'll have another special guest with us, Marcus Weldon, better known as the Santa Shooter. He joins us next week. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Armed Lutheran Radio. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and TuneIn. This podcast is made possible by Cook's Holsters and contributions from listeners like you.